Tonight, a damning report from the U.S. Coast Guard on the deadly implosion of the Titan submersible.
I would say that OceanGate's culture was one of the worst from a safety perspective.
The safety warnings ignored and the critical design flaws that led to the deep sea disaster.
I lost a good friend. I just felt, in my heart, this wasn't the way to do things.
The Prime Minister hints he's open to dropping some of the tariffs Canada imposed on the U.S.
We have removed some tariffs over time. We'll look at opportunities to do so.
The latest on the trade war, including Ottawa's billion-dollar plan to help softwood lumber. Benjamin Netanyahu facing pressure from within Israel to end the war with Hamas.
This war is not a just war. It is against the will of the Israeli people.
The new reports he's considering a full military takeover of Gaza.
From CBC News, this is The National with Heather Hiscox.
Thanks for joining us. Adrian is away. 2 years after the stunning implosion of the Titan submersible deep under the North Atlantic Ocean, a new scathing report is exposing what investigators say were critically flawed safety practices at the company that operated it. The disaster set off a days-long search for survivors, but in the end, it was clear all 5 people on board had died. Among them, the CEO of OceanGate, who investigators now say ignored crucial safety warnings. U.S. Coast Guard investigators say those deaths were preventable. Thomas Dagg now with what they uncovered in their search for answers.
Long before the Titan's deadly final plunge, warnings were piling up, red flags ignored. In a scathing new report, the U.S. Coast Guard blames the sub's owner, OceanGate, for a safety culture and operational practices that were critically flawed, plus a toxic workplace where staff would be fired for expressing concern.
How does it compare to any other company you've dealt with before?
I would say that OceanGate's culture was one of the worst from a safety perspective.
The sub, carrying 5 people, was on its way to view the wreckage of the Titanic in 2023. The captain's wife heard an underwater bang.
What was that bang?
It turned out to be the sub imploding 3,000 meters below. By then, the Titan had been stored outside in St. John's, exposed to the elements all winter, a move the report says likely exacerbated weaknesses in the adhesive.
I just knew if they just kept carrying on the way they were going, there would be an incident.
The Coast Guard spent 2 weeks last year hearing damning testimony.
Antonella Wilby.
Like this from a former OceanGate contractor.
Every question I asked about any of the engineering or design, the answer was never, well, here's the data, here's the analysis we did, here's the testing. It was always, well, this is what Stockton wants.
Stockton Rush, the company's chief executive and captain of the Titan, misrepresented the sub as indestructible. Now U.S. investigators say were he still alive, Rush may be facing criminal charges, with his negligence leading to the deaths of 4 others.
I lost a good friend. I just felt, in my heart, this wasn't the way to do things.
The family of one victim says they'll press on with their lawsuit filed against OceanGate. As for the company, it says it's no longer in operation. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
There are developments tonight in Canada's trade war with the United States. The Prime Minister is announcing new supports for Canada's softwood lumber industry. It's one of several sectors being targeted by the U.S. right now. But Mark Carney is also suggesting some of Canada's countermeasures designed to push back could be dropped. Here's Ashley Burke.
The Prime Minister on the move at a lumber mill in BC as he faces questions about his next move against Donald Trump.
We have always said that we will apply tariffs where they had the maximum impact in the United States and a minimum impact in Canada.
Mark Carney showing no signs he'll retaliate against Trump's latest tariff hike, and now says he's open to dropping some countermeasures if it helps Canadian industries out. In March, Canada imposed retaliatory tariffs of 25% on a long list of products worth almost $30 billion.
We have removed some tariffs over time so that, for example, the auto industry can function more effectively, and we'll look at opportunities to do so.
That surge after Canada failed to reach a deal with Trump by August 1st or get an extension like Mexico did. The U.S. ambassador to Canada on power and politics suggested it came down to a vibe.
Well, I think it's because of the feeling in the room or the energy in the room when the negotiators are talking to each other.
You're saying it's the energy in the room is the reason why Canada got hit and Mexico did not?
Number one, Canada really didn't get hit very hard.
2 Canadian ministers traveled to Mexico City to meet with the president that got that extension and is yet to retaliate against Trump.
Canada's economic relationship with the United States differs significantly from Mexico's.
Without a deal on the table, Carney's focused on helping the industries hit hard. His latest announcement, a suite of measures to help the softwood lumber sector.
Let's be clear. Canada does not dump lumber into the United States. And we will continue to make the case that these current and proposed duties are unjustified.
Carney promised to use Canadian lumber and workers as part of his plan this fall to give companies $25 billion in financing to build more affordable homes. He's also rolling out $1.2 billion in loans, grants, and contributions to the sector. And this package is similar to what Carney offered the steel industry last month.
Ashley, what else do we know about the status of talks with the U.S.?
Well, Heather, last week Carney called negotiations intense, complex, and tough. Now he's saying they're very fluid. The Prime Minister also revealed he hasn't talked to Trump in recent days, but said he will when it makes sense.
Ashley Burke in Ottawa, thank you very much. And a new snapshot tonight of how the Canada-U.S. trade relationship is faring through this trade war. Canadian exports to the U.S. rose in June, according to Statistics Canada, up 3.1%. But compared to a year ago, they're down 12.5%. Total exports of steel and aluminum, hit particularly hard by Donald Trump's tariffs, fell more than 11% in June. There are reports tonight Israel will look to approve new war plans this week. Israeli media say the strategy involves the complete takeover of Gaza. As Sasha Petrusik reports, pressure is building both inside of Israel and out to end the conflict.
Life in Gaza as it is most mornings. Prayers for the dead, tears from Alma Abu Khater, whose mother was killed trying to get aid. It's injustice, she says, killing and hunger, and scrounging for food in a tent hit by an Israeli airstrike nearby. Media in Israel now report Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to fully occupy Gaza. He hasn't confirmed that, but he says he does insist on completing the defeat of the enemy, Hamas. That's proven elusive after nearly 22 months of war in a country where the vast majority wants it to end, demanding a ceasefire so 20 hostages can return alive. And almost 600 former Israeli military and security officials are petitioning Washington to stop the fighting.
This war is not a just war. It is against the will of the Israeli people. We are responsible to a humanitarian disaster in Gaza. We are killing innocent people.
A video from the weekend shows Palestinians running from gunfire near an aid distribution site. Israel denies its soldiers aim at civilians and insists it's helping them.
Israel facilitating huge amounts of aid into Gaza. No other country acts this way in war.
Israel has allowed Canada and others to drop aid into Gaza. Some 10,000 kilos from a Canadian Forces plane on Monday. But aid groups say airdrops alone are inefficient and insufficient, especially if Israel intends to expand the war even further. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
For more, let's bring in Oral Brown, a professor of international relations and political science at the University of Toronto. Professor, I'm interested, first of all, in your reaction to these multiple reports out of Israel today that Prime Minister Netanyahu is set to order a full occupation of Gaza. What do you make of that strategy?
Since there are so many different things coming at us, it's very important to get to the big picture. And the big picture is this is a horrific situation that is not amenable to easy solutions. These are tremendously difficult dilemmas, and this is what any government whether in Israel or elsewhere, faces. The Palestinian people, the Israeli people are suffering, and the only ones benefiting are Hamas, and they are deliberately starving the hostages to death, it seems. And so there has to be a reaction. Whether this will be the most effective one, whether this will work, or this is just a bluff, we don't know at this stage, so we have to wait. But I think we have to be very careful not to just assume that there is some kind of clean diplomatic solution. We are looking at one of the most difficult conditions possible.
It seems like there's growing pressure within Israel not to take over Gaza, and yet from Netanyahu's right-wing coalition partners, the push continues for him to do that, very much so. How is he balancing these two pressures?
Netanyahu has lost a great deal of credibility, even though he has been in power for a long time. But even the opposition, which would like to have this war stopped as soon as possible, and is very reluctant to see a military takeover of Gaza, believes that at some point or another they have to remove Hamas. And the Arab League itself has said that Hamas has to disarm, but Hamas has no intention of doing that. So it's hard to see who has a clean, effective solution. And this turmoil on the ground, and of course internationally, this is very controversial and very risky.
And finally, last few seconds, what are you watching from the U.S.? What role is the Trump administration playing at this point?
What is particularly interesting and significant is the shift in the viewpoint of the Trump administration, which had been quite optimistic. Mr. Trump undoubtedly hoped that he would get the Nobel Peace Prize, but as a negotiator, had come to the bitter conclusion that Hamas is an obstacle, that Hamas is irredeemable. And this is why Mr. Trump now is saying that he's leaving it up to the Israelis. He just wants to get more food in. That is being done. But the problem of bringing peace to the Middle East, that remains.
Professor Brown, I appreciate your perspective tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
The U.S. House Oversight Committee has issued multiple subpoenas in the Jeffrey Epstein case. The convicted sex offender died in 2019, but his links to Donald Trump and the decision not to release more investigative files have pushed Epstein back into the headlines. The committee is now trying to compel the Justice Department to release its records related to Epstein, and it wants depositions from former law enforcement officials as well as from Bill and Hillary Clinton. The defense team for Sean Diddy Combs says it has reached out to President Trump for a pardon. Last month, the former music mogul was convicted on prostitution-related offenses. In an interview last week, Trump indicated he is unlikely to grant Combs a pardon. A political showdown in Texas is spilling over into other states tonight. At the heart of it, a proposed shift in electoral boundaries, with an eye on next year's crucial midterm elections. Peter Armstrong explains from Washington.
There being 94 members present, a quorum is not present.
And with that, the political standoff in Texas slid further into crisis. Democrat members of the state legislature have fled Texas. They're trying to derail a plan to redraw electoral maps in a way that would benefit the Republicans. In turn, the state House Speaker has issued arrest warrants.
DPS is actively working to compel their attendance after I signed their civil arrest warrants yesterday.
Texas democracy under attack.
Outside, demonstrators have lined the streets calling on Democrats to stand firm, but Republicans say they have the law on their side.
The Supreme Court of the United States has weighed in and said that it is absolutely permissible to draw maps based on maximizing partisan advantage.
And there's no question, this is being done to maximize partisan advantage. Under the proposed changes, Republicans could gain as many as 5 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And that small shift could go a long way to helping Republicans retain control of Congress. The Democrats call it gerrymandering. Donald Trump calls it an opportunity.
And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
To prevent that, some Democrats fled to other states in order to keep the Republican-controlled House from establishing a quorum.
Look, I didn't run for office to walk out of the Capitol, but I also didn't run for office to stand by while democracy is stolen in broad daylight.
The problem for Democrats is they can only delay for so long.
It seems likely that the new maps are going to be
going to be voted on and put in place. And then the question is, what are the courts going to do?
The other thing to watch, though, Heather, is how other states will respond. Democrat governors in New York and California and Illinois, they've all vowed to, in their words, fight fire with fire.
What does that mean exactly, Peter? What are those states going to do?
Look, they've all vowed to redistrict their own electoral maps if they have to. And on the one hand, they've done that before. But it's also complicated now, as Democrats have recently led the charge to prevent gerrymandering and even passed some laws to make this kind of thing more difficult.
Peter, thank you very much. The CBC's Peter Armstrong from Washington tonight. Canada's evolving wildfire situation and extremely dry conditions have some provinces on high alert tonight. In Nova Scotia, officials are trying to prevent wildfires with a ban effective immediately on all recreational activities and vehicles in wooded areas.
Hiking, camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through woods are off limits. Camping is allowed, but only in official campgrounds.
Those who violate the ban will face a $25,000 fine, including for violations of the fire restriction. The rules will be in place until October 15th or until the weather improves. In Newfoundland and Labrador, hundreds of people from several communities are out of their homes tonight. Others are on evacuation alert as 3 wildfires burn out of control in the province.
It's no secret this has been an unbelievably historic dry season on the island, which is one of the major reasons we're seeing the abundance of forest fires. And we can't control Mother Nature, of course, but we can control what we are doing.
A fire ban is now in effect across the province. Officials say there have been 192 fires so far this year that have burned 8,400 hectares of land and destroyed buildings. An Ontario teacher says she was blindsided when Instagram suddenly suspended her account, wrongly accusing her of child exploitation. Now she's speaking out about the real-world impact of what she believes is an AI mistake. Nicole Williams has the story.
Megan Conte says it came out of nowhere. A ban on her Instagram account and a note from parent company Meta accusing her of violating the company's standards on child sexual exploitation.
I was very surprised. I was pretty hurt, actually, especially considering what I do for a living.
Conte is a high school teacher and says there's nothing on her account that would trigger such a suspension. In fact, she says she hasn't posted in months.
I had a lot to lose when I lost my Instagram account. I had about 10 to 15 years worth of photos.
She suspects the company's artificial intelligence moderating tools wrongfully flagged her account, and she isn't the only one. A petition with more than 34,000 signatures says Meta is relying too much on AI technology.
These platforms need to be more transparent, and users deserve a way to appeal that actually works.
Meta says it uses a combination of people and technology to monitor profiles, but one analyst says AI is most likely the culprit.
It's AI that is deciding to deny those individuals access to those accounts, and there is literally no one that they can call to get those decisions reversed.
In a statement, a Meta spokesperson says it takes action on accounts that violate our policies, and people can appeal if they think we've made a mistake. Laura Thomas says she's been locked out of her accounts for weeks now, including one used to share information about a local hockey association where she's a board member. She was told one of her posts violated community standards, but not which one or how.
It's all just for connection, right? Connecting with others, and when that's taken away, it's very hard.
As for Conte, Meta apologized and reinstated her account, but only after CBC reached out for comment. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
A modern-day arms race is shaping up over the development of military drones, and Canada hopes to join the fray.
We've got the skills here, we've got the know-how, and we've certainly got the need.
Could drones hold the key to defending Canada? Next. Plus, palm trees in Canadian gardens? A new reality with the country's changing growing conditions.
I think it certainly is a climate change indicator.
How a warming climate is changing what comes out of our soil. And later, an Alaskan grizzly bear sets its sights on an NHL mascot.
They're super used to seeing humans. They're just not used to seeing trolls.
A narrow escape for Seattle's sea troll in our moment. We're back in 2. A new global arms race for drones has Canada's military playing catch-up. It's now turning to private industry to meet its drone needs. Evan Dyer shows us how the technology is changing modern warfare.
There's a new arms race in the air, on the land, even on 4 legs. Ground zero of that race is Ukraine, where drones, large and small, are now the deadliest weapon on the battlefield. Canada's biggest drone purchase to date is the large fixed-wing Sky Guardian, which won't be delivered till 2033. Those big drones have a role to play, but that's not where the greatest innovation is happening right now. It's these kinds of smaller drones that can get up close and personal, from about this size up to the size of a small car. Conventional military procurement involves expensive factories and years-long timelines. Drone innovation is completely different.
The sheer scale of their production, some of the ways that from guys in their garages who are actually streamlining 3D printing and turning out quantities of these UAVs you wouldn't have thought was imaginable.
The Ukrainians, of course, have taken that to an extreme level, right, where we're seeing crowdsourced efforts from the civilian population building drones or parts of drones and sending them to the front line.
Canada's military is trying to get some of that same energy by issuing challenges to industry and letting them come up with solutions.
They are putting out more challenges, and they've increased the dollar value that's available to meet those challenges, but we're finding the response is quicker.
Projects underway include marine drones that can attack ships, as in Ukraine.
Ukraine, with their drone boats and ships, anti-ship missile, have been effectively able to drive the Russian fleet out of the Black Sea.
It's not just drones, it's also counter-drone. Everything from shotguns to guns firing nets to laser beams. Some of it being tested at a place called the Sandbox in Suffield, Alberta, including directed energy weapons that burn a drone in midair.
We've got the skills here, we've got the know-how, and we've certainly got the need. So if we're already ahead in drones and robots and we can keep our pace with AI, putting those together definitely makes us an international powerhouse.
Lost on nobody is that Canada is a very large country with a small military. Drones have the potential to give this country a much tougher defense. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
New data shows growing conditions in Canada have shifted due to the impacts of climate change.
It's really a myth that you can't grow palms in cold climate, but you can.
New opportunities for gardeners, but a sobering reminder of a warming planet next. Plus, just weeks after a raging wildfire swept through their small Bayside community, some Newfoundland cabin owners get their first look at the destruction.
It's amazing how hot the fire must have been. I mean, the beds are still sitting right where they would be in the cabin.
We'll join them on their emotional return. And massive swaths of Canada without local access to obstetrical services.
It can be a matter of life and death.
We explore the risks of maternity ward deserts when The National breaks down the story shaping your world next. If it seems like you're noticing new plants popping up around you, you're not imagining things. Scientists say Canada's warming climate is changing what can grow here. And as Inayat Singh shows us, it's opening the door to crops we have never seen before.
These here will bite you. These are cold hardy blue Americanas.
Dan Richard's nursery shows what an adventurous gardener could achieve in southern Ontario.
Oftentimes we interpret growing palms in Canada as a myth. Like, it's really a myth that you can't grow palms in cold climate, but you can. Depending on the species of plant, you could do whatever you want.
Now, scientific research shows the country is actually getting more suitable for new types of plants as the climate warms. A new update to Canada's plant hardiness zones, the first since 2014, shows growing conditions have changed throughout the country. In BC, the purple shows regions where citrus trees can grow, and southern Ontario zones appearing that can support some palm species. While there are opportunities for people to try new plants in Canada, these plant hardiness zones are also a worrying reminder that the planet is getting hotter.
I think it certainly is a climate change indicator. I think it's interesting that with 7 different variables, all with varying levels of sort of climate change signal embedded in them, that out of that mass, we still see a very clear climate change signal.
The hardiness map accounts for year-round conditions, including temperature and precipitation, as well as soil conditions and wind speeds. But the shifting zones are primarily driven by warming temperatures.
Right after Labor Day, we will harvest the seed.
That brings opportunities for ambitious gardeners like Rashad, but also challenges.
It's fun to look at the fun side of climate change and say, hey, you know, maybe I can grow some new species around my place. But yeah, we don't want to forget the fact that there's all kinds of other negative implications around climate change.
Along with the map, the government has also released species-specific models with more granular information on particular plants and crops that will guide Canadian growers as they plan their fields and gardens in a changing climate. Inayat Singh, CBC News, Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Now let's break down the news shaping our world.
Since I'm at 37 weeks, I was starting to get worried. What am I, like, do I go to the emerge here?
It's known as a maternity care desert, a large stretch of northern Ontario where obstetric care is almost non-existent. But first, we take you to Newfoundland.
I got no favorite memories. Every day was a memory.
Decades of hard work lost. Wildfire on Newfoundland's Bonavista Peninsula has kept cabin owners stressed and scrambling for weeks. It's a saga that for many has ended in total destruction. Reporter Jessica Singer was there for a heartbreaking homecoming.
Destruction and devastation dot the shores of Pudding Cove, a small, quiet inlet on Newfoundland's Bonavista Peninsula. This is cabin country, a tight-knit community you can only get to by boat. Along the shore, shattered glass and sheets of metal roofing. A dock leads from the water to a plot of empty, scorched earth. When you get a closer look at the charred land, the debris and rubble tell a story. Plates that held home-cooked meals, beds where people slept peacefully after a long day on the water, and barbecues that cooked food on warm summer nights. Marguerite Pike stands in the ruins of what used to be her happy place.
I choose not to think about it. That's how bad it is. And you don't think about it at all.
Marguerite and her husband Ken owned their cabin in Warwick's Cove for over 30 years. They lost a lot of family mementos in the flames. Journals, gifts from their grandchildren, artwork. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but they are grieving the loss of their safe haven.
I say we spend, no problem to say, 6 months of the year out here. We even came out here in all kinds of weather. We spend New Year's, Christmas Day, cook off here. Every other one's, all other people's going to come out. Me and he was only too fools to show up. But guess what? We enjoyed every bit of it. I got no favorite memories. Every day was a memory.
When the Chance Harbor wildfire broke out on July 14th, the picturesque area was quickly engulfed by thick plumes of smoke, and flames spread to around 1,800 hectares of land. Residents think at least 40 cabins have been lost, mostly in the small inlets of Pudding Cove, Warwick's Cove, and Deer Island Tickle along the Bonavista Bay. Ryan Pitts has lived in the area his whole life. Since the wildfire broke out, he's spent nearly every day on his boat, braving the flames and thick smoke to help people salvage whatever they can from their properties.
Beds are still about where they would be in the cabin. That's right where they would be. You walk in the living room here and you walk down 2 beds.
His aunt's cabin in Pudding Cove was demolished by the wildfire. As he and his dad Marvin walk through the debris, the extent of the damage really starts to sink in.
It's amazing how hot the fire must have been. I mean, the beds are still sitting right where they would be in the cabin. The wood stove, there's nothing left. There's no sign. It's unbelievable. There's no frame, there's nothing. The only thing left is the metal. Destruction, I guess, we're looking at. Devastation. Hard to see, hard to believe what I'm looking at. It hurts, pretty sad. A lot of memories gone. just like that.
Pitts has been capturing the destruction on his cell phone, sending videos and pictures to friends to update them on the status of their cabins and sharing what he sees on social media, scenes he describes as looking like a war zone.
I just started recording it because cabins mean a lot to us here. It's a lot of hard work. People have been building these. It's different than a house. You save up, you get your house and you get situated, then you want a place to go to relax. So typically we build cabins to go to. It's our happy place. And you don't get a mortgage or nothing like that. You get it one piece at a time. You save up every little bit you can to get money to build a cabin. So they don't be built overnight. Generally they're built over years and years of upgrading them and working on them. And I just started documenting what people are losing. Some people think you're losing a cabin is not a big deal, but to us it's a huge deal.
A lot of cabins in the area have been completely destroyed by the wildfires, and all that's left is scorched earth and debris. But not all cabins have been lost. When some people saw the flames, they felt they needed to take matters into their own hands. Ray Little's cabin still sits proudly on the shores of Deer Island Tickle, but traces of the fire's wrath are within reach. Charred tree branches and blackened bark are just a few feet away from his cabin. Little has been a volunteer firefighter for over 20 years. He and a few friends who are also firefighters chose to battle the blaze themselves. For 8 days, they traveled back and forth from their homes in nearby communities to Deer Island Tickle, spending hours soaking properties with a water pump and hoses. Thanks to their hard work, they were able to save 3 cabins in the area.
Blessed, emotional, to save something that we loved. It means something. On the other side, there's times I feel a little guilty. Why is mine standing? Somebody else is gone. There's a lot of emotions, right? And I'm glad we did what we did. Hopefully we have years of memories yet to build. We just love it. You know, there's no other word. We love being here. And as a little boy, I grew up in this area fishing with my father. So there's a lot of sentimental values that we put on things, and we just love it. And like I said, if it breaks tomorrow, I'll be back here again tomorrow pumping.
Perry Ash's cabin in Deer Island Tickle also survived. He had no firefighting experience until the flames threatened his property. When the wildfire first broke out, Ash rushed back to his cabin. He discovered his brother Ricky's place next door was already being destroyed. Right away, Ash got to work. He spent days throwing 5-gallon buckets of water onto his deck and cabin. He eventually got access to water pumps, and after days of hard physical labor, he saved his property. His firefighting uniform was his everyday clothes, jeans and a new pair of sneakers.
I had more strength than I ever thought I ever had, right? Like, you know, I could throw anything 50 feet away, right? Didn't matter what it was, right? But I was never weak. I love here. It's quiet here, right? And I spend a lot of time out there by myself, right? So, and I love to stay there, right? So, I'm happy. I kept it.
Many people won't be able to rebuild what they lost. Thousands of dollars and decades of hard work was put into summer getaways that quickly crumbled into ashes. Although the cabins are gone, people are holding on to memories and their connections to a community that feels more like family.
That's Jessica Singer reporting. The Chance Harbor wildfire is now deemed under control with no further spread expected. Still ahead, a lack of obstetrical services in some parts of Canada is forcing mothers to leave home to give birth.
Do I risk my life traveling on bad roads, or I risk my baby's life by staying here?
How maternity ward deserts are adding risk to an already stressful situation. That's next. In Northern Ontario, pregnant women are left with difficult decisions. With no one to deliver their babies, most are urged to relocate.
I risk my life traveling on bad roads, or I risk my baby's life by staying here.
It adds a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress.
But there are physicians fighting for change.
This is not universal health care.
Back in February, Nick Purdon showed us the reality in Northern Ontario, where both moms and babies are at risk.
It's abnormal for a pregnant woman to have to travel 3 hours to deliver their baby.
It can be a matter of life and death for the mom or the baby.
My heart did stop, so they had to restart it. This job almost killed me.
I'm in Northern Ontario because up here, if you're a pregnant woman, you likely have a problem. There's probably not a doctor in the town where you live who can deliver your baby. So what do you do if you're pregnant in this part of the country? This is the area I'm talking about, from Timmins in the east to Thunder Bay in the west. And our story starts here in the town of Hearst, population 5,000. I'm here because in Hearst, there's nobody at all to deliver babies.
So get you to lift your shirt. We're gonna go measure. It's all the way up there. How's your breathing?
Better.
Better.
I feel like
Mireille Morissette is at the local health clinic for a checkup. Now you'd think this would be an exciting time, but Mireille is anxious.
So fetal fundal height is 37.
Like since I'm at 37 weeks, I was starting to get worried. Like let's say last night, my labor would have started. What am I, like, do I go to the emerge here? What do I do?
Yes.
Okay.
Mireille knows there's no obstetrical department at her local hospital. The nearest one is hours down the highway. And often in winter, driving's not an option.
144. Great.
Well, the roads were closed last night. Even if I wanted to travel, let's say my labor would have started since I'm at 37 weeks, that's a possibility. I couldn't even travel because the roads were closed. What do I do in this type of situation? Do I risk my life traveling on bad roads? Or I risk my baby's life by staying here? Like, I don't understand.
I don't recommend, especially with the road conditions, that you try to go yourself. That's why that recommendation, unfortunately, is to relocate.
I was just wondering because
Relocation is the policy here. It's Nurse Fortin Ukrainitz's job to tell pregnant women that to be safe, they need to move to a town with obstetrical services weeks before their baby is due.
Nice and relax.
What are the consequences that you see of women having to relocate?
I think it's terribly stressful for moms, and I think that it can have an impact on how you imagine your life. So some people may, change they want 3 kids. Well, knowing that I can't deliver safely in my own town and I have to travel and have those increased risks, they might change their whole life because of that. 116/81, excellent. Rate is 90.
Mireille's options are to drive 3 hours to the east to Timmins, or she could go west and drive 5 hours to Thunder Bay. So imagine you're 37 weeks pregnant, you've been told to relocate 300 kilometers away from your home. Let me show you what the roads are like. This is the Trans-Canada in Northern Ontario. In winter, it's never a sure thing that the road will even be open because of the snow. And cars get stranded here all the time. I make it to the town of Kapuskasing, an hour away from Hearst. I'm here because I want to meet the doctor fighting to get more obstetrical care in the north. Dr. Jessica Quapis is the chief of staff at the local hospital.
This is not okay. The government says that we need care in the right place at the right time, and that is just not happening here. It's not equitable, it's not fair. This is not universal health care.
For now, Dr. Quapis says she's been able to patch together doctors with obstetrical training to come north part-time, but she says it's far from a solution.
What worries me is that a mom and or her unborn baby or her newborn baby will die as a result of lack of this coverage in our area. I've worked in the third world before. That is a reality overseas. I never thought it would be something that we'd be talking about here in Ontario.
Dr. Quapis presented a plan to the provincial government months ago to increase funding, but she says she hasn't heard back. I contacted the ministry, and they say they're still analyzing the proposal.
Let's see.
One of the people Dr. Kwap has hired to fill in this week is Dr. Richard Claveau. He used to work full-time in obstetrics in the north, but he says it was too much.
So I would often spend 24 hours up just delivering babies, going back to the office the next morning, and then, trying to rest what I could. At certain points, you don't want to get up in the morning, you don't want to go to work. You know that this is going to be a hard day, or they've called you at 2 a.m., so can't fall asleep again until 6 a.m. type of thing. So I would often be going into work exhausted. Good. Excellent.
For 5 years, Dr. Claveau was the only doctor with obstetrical training in the town of Hearst. And he says one day it almost killed him.
I started feeling unwell. So I was just getting more and more pressure and more feelings of dizziness and weakness. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I was green. And I just told my partner, I said, we have to go to the hospital. This is a heart attack. This is what's happening.
Dr. Claveau needed months to recover. He never went back to full-time practice. But now he says he's under a different kind of pressure.
I can't walk in town now without being asked, like, when are you going to start over? Why did you stop working?
I mean, do people get angry at you?
Absolutely. Like, nothing physical, but people are upset, absolutely. Because these patients have to travel and does increase their risks quite a bit. So the guilt is always still there.
Vroom, vroom. What about this one?
Cheyenne Fournier was a patient of Dr. Claveau's. When he quit, she had to relocate all the way to Thunder Bay to deliver her baby. When you relocated to have your baby, what was the hardest part about that?
It's very isolating because I would wake up, you'd stay in the house, and you're just literally there to wait. You're there to wait to go into labor. This should be the happiest time in your life, right? You should be able to share the joy with people around you and your family, and you should be doing all of this nesting and folding all of the baby clothes and preparing all of the nursery and all of that. But then you're just there and you're stuck. What does your book say? It adds a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress.
When Cheyenne relocated, her husband couldn't come with her. He had to work.
So my husband works along that roadway when we traveled, and I actually stopped in to basically say goodbye. And I said, I'll see you in a few weeks, knowing very well that there's a possibility that if you go into labor, you might deliver without your partner. What if he doesn't make it? What if he misses the birth of his first child?
In the end, Cheyenne's husband made it. But she tells me that because of the experience, she's changed her family's plans. Will you have another baby?
That's a good question. As of now, the answer to that is no.
Mireille Morissette is just a few weeks away from having her baby.
Bonjour, Gwen.
And she's still planning exactly what to do.
I have to look at all the possible scenarios and figure out what's best for my family, for my mental health, because I know one of the reasons I wasn't feeling so well during this pregnancy was caused by anxiety of not knowing how my delivery is going to go.
Beyond maternity care, the Ontario Medical Association says there are more than 350 unfilled physician vacancies in the north. That includes more than 200 family doctors. Next, the Seattle Kraken experienced the call of the wild.
I think the bear just got a little excited and wanted to get a little bit of a closer look to our dear friend Bowie.
It's part of the play for Kraken fans, but it nearly ended up as prey for that grizzly bear. That's next in our moment. Let me set this up. The Seattle Kraken NHL team fly fishing in Alaska for a promo shoot featuring their mascot, Bowie, until an enormous grizzly let it be known it would have no sea troll in its fishing hole. Tonight, Bowie's brush with a Bruin makes our moment.
We had a pretty close call with a couple bears. That bear.
So Bowie is a troll, which is the Kraken's mascot, and they're super used to seeing humans. They're just not used to seeing trolls, and so Bowie was a unique element to the day. We do a trip up to Anchorage every summer with our youth hockey coaches to do a Kraken week takeover at the Anchorage Hockey Academy. My colleague and I were standing on the shore kind of taking some footage of the folks that were in the river fly fishing. We saw a bear approach us. I think the bear just got a little excited and wanted to get a little bit of a closer look to our dear friend Bowie. Luckily, everyone moved really fast, and it was such a unique moment to see a bear in their natural habitat get excited to see something they're not used to seeing, because we knew we were going to be okay.
Seattle might be used to facing the Nashville predators, but an apex predator? Well, that's an entirely different game. From all of us here at the National, thank you for being with us tonight. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the National's YouTube channel. I'm Heather Hiscox. Good night.